I just want to start off by saying that I have watched the trial. With the jury decision, I'm mainly wondering, what do they believe happened and what do they disbelieve happened, specifically in Australia? Because for this trial, if they had only believed one instance where Johnny abused Amber, Amber should have automatically won. So I'm just going to go over it because it is the main event with the most serious allegations, and just go over what Amber actually said happened step by step, because I think this is the one with the most compelling evidence. Like, you have the severed finger, the doctor's notes on it, the pictures of the bloody writing, and like the pictures of cuts on Amber's arms, over something like $100,000 worth of property damage. So I'm just really curious as to what they actually believe happened for that specific incident. I'm also going to mention the tape that wasn't allowed in evidence as well at some points. Not too much, but I'm just wondering, like, if this was the thing, like, because maybe this was the important piece of evidence that made all the difference between this trial and the UK trial. Or maybe it wasn't. I'm just wondering, like, what's the difference between these two trials? And Amber thinks that maybe the therapist notes would help, but I don't really think so. I think the tape might have been the key point of evidence that was missing. Apparently, the jurors discounted the other witness testimony and the expert testimony. They felt like it couldn't really be trusted because they were friends or they were paid, something like that. So I'm just going to do the same thing and kind of discount most of it and just see what Amber said and what Johnny said and who told the more believable story between the two. Starting off with Johnny's version of events. He says the fight was about her not wanting to sign a post-nup agreement. He said that Amber would keep coming to get him at least 5 bathrooms and 2 bedrooms. He tried to escape from her. Johnny Depp's lawyer said that Amber was the real abuser in the situation because she kept coming to get him, starting fights which became physical. Again, it's not specific to what they mean by getting physical. The only thing was they said that Amber threw the 2 vodka bottles, but that's the only description of it being physical. They said that one of the vodka bottles hit him and severed the fingertip. There was no description of Amber physically hitting him with her hands or anything like that. Nothing very specific. He says that he lost his mind and had a nervous breakdown after he lost his fingertip, and he doesn't completely remember what he did afterwards. Amber Heard's lawyers described the whole thing as a 3-day hostage situation, where Johnny was on a drug and alcohol binge and did not sleep or eat the entire time. And essentially, she was acting like his sitter, trying to take care of him, get him to eat, sleep, and all that kind of stuff. And they were also separate for a month before this. This was after the wedding, and she was off somewhere doing a movie, I think, The Danish Girl or something. And she said that when she came, he said that he wanted to see her, to be with his wife, and when she got there, he became violent with her because he suspected that she was having affairs while she was away, and he was just in general just raging and breaking things, and she also alleges that he SA'd her with a liquor bottle and that she was in fear for her life. She also says she was not responsible for severing his finger. There are a number of conflicting stories as to how Johnny Depp lost his fingertip. At one point, Amber said that he might have lost it by smashing this phone into smithereens. He's also said that the accordion doors might have done it. It was also listed that he had an accident with a kitchen knife. The 4 doctors that examined it said that it seemed to be from a crushing mechanism. They said it was a crush injury, so it's unclear how he lost it. However, I can't understand why he would, if he's saying that Amber severed it with the vodka bottles, I can't understand why he wouldn't want to go to the hospital immediately and save his finger, because he was saying that he missed the tip and he wouldn't want to risk the digit because he loves playing the guitar and he needs his finger to play the guitar. But the problem with that for me is that he could have accidentally died by doing the stuff that he did afterwards. Because after the finger was severed, he made a choice to not go to the hospital, and he ended up exposing his open wound to all these germs for several hours, which could have put his life at serious risk. And he did end up getting an infection because of it. So it's quite difficult to understand why he would choose to do what he did. I also find it hard to believe that if Amber had any control in the situation, if she was there and she threw a bottle at it and she could tell that he was injured, I don't see why she wouldn't have gotten him help immediately. Johnny mentioned Amber saying to him, "I'm not even in your will," and that the Australia fight was about him trying to get her to sign a post-nup agreement. But if that's the case, she would do everything in her power to get him help, like medical help, as soon as possible, I think. Because if she's not in his will, like just for selfish reasons, I think she would want to save his life. And Johnny hasn't really explained like what Amber did in all that time when he was breaking things and doing all the graffiti in his own blood and the paint for several hours. He had been doing that. He didn't explain what Amber did, if she left him alone afterwards or if she was still trying to talk to him. It's all very odd to me. When it comes to a he said, she said matter, I just want to talk about this MDMA thing because Amber immediately had more credibility, I think, because of this, because Johnny wasn't owning up to this particular thing. Amber said that Johnny had taken 8 to 10 MDMA pills at one time, sort of. And this was also something on the tape. She said to Jerry Judge that within the span of 2 hours that he had taken this whole bag of MDMA pills. So it seemed to make sense. And Johnny Depp denied that. He said that if he took that many pills at one time, he would be dead. And I know that that's not true, and I've looked it up, and it is not true. And it's not about a tolerance thing or him, being superhuman or anything like that. It's just 8 to 10 pills isn't an extraordinarily large amount of ecstasy to take. You shouldn't take it. I don't think people should take that amount. It's not an outrageous amount to take, because it is quite difficult to overdose on ecstasy. Even though a lot of people can die from taking ecstasy, it's not an issue with an overdose. It's because Johnny Depp seems to know how to use these drugs in a way that won't kill him because he's experienced, so he would know certain rules of how to take it. And with ecstasy, it's just about not drinking too much water, and the effects of it will wear off in about 6 hours. So it's not hard to believe he would have taken 8 to 10 in one go. They even asked like how much is too much, and it says typically people can consume 1 to 2 tablets, but some people will take up to 10 pills at a time. So he's not the only one, and even though it says it leads to toxic effects such as an overdose, that's not necessarily the case. So it's definitely possible that he did that. I don't find it hard to believe that he would have done that. And it matched with what she said on the tapes, the secret tape that wasn't allowed in evidence. So, but the thing with that is, like, even though the effects of that ecstasy would wear off sort of in 6 hours, but there are these after effects that would linger on for days and maybe a week afterwards, maybe a couple weeks afterwards. So I can see why it might have led to some issues later on and some effects with his memory. So it's definitely possible that he did that. And I do think that Amber has some credibility. Like when I see a comparison of what Johnny says to what Amber says, they played this tape where she was yelling out, "I want couch." And Johnny Depp explained it as Amber was ordering him to the couch. I didn't really think that that made any sense, and Amber explained it as couch is sort of like a safe word. It means like I want truth, I want peace, something like that. So I think she tends to give an answer that makes a little bit more sense to me. But yeah, I find it that he should have owned up to like taking that many ecstasy pills, if he did, because it's not really the type of thing that would kill him. The only thing is like because he was mixing it with cocaine and alcohol, but again, we don't know if he did it all at once. Maybe he took the ecstasy and then hours and hours later he was taking the alcohol and the cocaine, so it wasn't really mixing at the same time, so it wouldn't have led to too many issues that way. But yeah, and later on they revealed those text messages where he was asking for the YT stuff and the E business, so it seems like he was taking those drugs. For the Australia thing, Amber never said he punched her or broke her nose. She mentions him punching and breaking things around her, so maybe that caused some confusion. Anyway, I thought I'd mention this while I'm at it. It's just that most people don't need to seek medical attention if they break their noses. They can take care of it by icing it and taking painkillers if they need to deal with the pain, but it usually can heal by itself after a couple of weeks, and the swelling can come down within 3 days. Amber took pictures of her swollen nose, which didn't appear to be that severe to begin with, so that seems to make sense. Also, I just wanted to point out that Johnny Depp doesn't wear heavy rings all the time, and usually when Amber says hit, it doesn't mean a punch, it tends to mean a slap across the face, so him wearing or not wearing rings isn't a typically relevant detail for most of the physical assaults she's describing. So I just wanted to clear that up. Amber says that they got into an argument and he had been accusing her of sleeping with her co-stars, including Eddie Redmayne and Billy Bob Thornton. Johnny Depp rolled his eyes when she mentioned Eddie Redmayne. She said that Eddie Redmayne was a perfect gentleman, and Johnny Depp rolled his eyes. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean, if he knows something that no one else knows. With Billy Bob, he said he completely denied that. He said it was completely false and that he didn't even socialize with Amber offset, other than like one cast dinner. And they were both married at the time. Both Eddie Redmayne and Billy Bob Thornton were married by this time, so it didn't seem likely that that was true. And yet Johnny Depp said that he caught her in some lies, and that's why he left her messages in his own blood. And one of the messages read, starring Billy Bob and Easy Amber. So it's unclear what that means, but yeah, it's lending credibility to Amber's thing, saying that she didn't cheat on him, because both of these men seem to, Eddie Redmayne hasn't said anything about it, but Billy Bob denied it completely. And most of the men that he's accused her of don't appreciate like being dragged into this. He's accused her of having affairs with a bunch of other men, and they all seem to have denied it in the past, so it seems to lend more credibility to her side. Then she goes on to describe the fights. She says, "He has me up against the wall, he slams me hard, I hit my head hard. This is the wall next to the kitchenette. There were these fridges, and I remember being slammed up against those. I remember pushing him off of me, the name calling, the whore, the slut, the fat ass." So Amber mentions the verbal abuse, and it matches with the things that we've heard on the tapes and the text messages. Johnny saying that in this text message, he says that they used to hurl these heinous, slinging insults. So it seems to make sense that he would say that stuff to her. But the other detail is that she's saying there is a physicality aspect on his side while he's delivering the verbal insults. And it's not him hitting her, it's him slamming her against something and kind of holding her there while he speaks to her and saying, and then she says that she pushed him off of her. Johnny was never specific about that. He doesn't seem to remember Amber pushing him off of her, or maybe he would say that she approached him first and that's why he slammed her against those things. But yeah, so she goes on to say, he was squeezing my neck, it got really nasty, it went from no one likes you, everyone warned me about you. He said everyone had warned him about me and he wished he'd never married me, that no one liked me. At some point I shoved him and he shoved me back. He said, do you want to go, little girl? So again, it kind of matches this text message where he's saying, he says, when we fight, little girl. So she's using the same language that matches with the things that Johnny Depp has said in the past. And he's describing it as a fight. He's specifically saying it's a fight. And this struck me as a very revealing detail because when she says, at some point I shoved him back, like she shoved him back as a response to what he was doing, that she's saying that he began the physicality. And maybe it lends credibility to what she's saying, like the warped abuser mindset where he's saying that she started the fight because she shoved him first. Like maybe he's not recognizing that he was being physical to begin with by holding her in place, and even though he slammed her against something and it hit her head hard, because he hasn't hit her head, he's not recognizing that he hurt her physically. So it could make sense and match with her idea with things, saying that she's just responding to violence. And it's a negotiation to say that she started the physical fights, even though she was just pushing him off of her. So that could be a way to see it, or maybe there's another version. It's just that Johnny Depp hasn't explained his side of things with as much detail as she has. Then she goes on to say that she was struggling with him and that he threw her across the room and how easy it was to throw her across the room. She says that at one point, I land on the games table. He gets on top of me on the games table and is just whacking me in the face, repetitive. We struggled. So yeah, when she says whacking in the face, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's doing it with full strength. She's not saying that it hurt her. She's just saying, she said it was repetitive. Whitney mentioned the same thing. Like when she says whack, they both demonstrated it. It's like if you make a fist and it's the bottom of the fist, so it's not necessarily the side with the fingers. It's not a punch necessarily when you say whack, based on the way they both demonstrated what that meant. Also, Jerry Judge confirmed on the tapes that they needed to replace the table because it was broken, and they showed a picture of it like split in half, like one side of it came down. So you could imagine that with the both of them on it, it might have and them struggling on it could have brought one side to break and come down completely. So it is a broken table. And then she goes on to say that he's taunting her to take the bottle from him. He's holding out the bottle. The third time she gets a hold of it, she slams it down on the ground between them, and then she says that really set him off. It was like a light bulb switch went off. He starts screaming. I don't know if he backhanded me or hit me. It sent me down to the ground. By the time I picked myself up off of the floor, he's got a bottle in his hand. He threw it at me. It missed. He had a broken bottle up against my neck. And he told me I'll carve up your face. And then she said it was terrifying. It's all kind of believable to me that he would do that, to be honest. Like, that he would hit her and threaten her with the broken bottle. Because you see the type of stuff that he messages in the text messages. So I think that's possible that he threatened her in that way. And then she goes on to say, I remember him having me by the nightgown. I remember him throwing me around. I'm flailing. He's throwing these bottles at me, these soda cans, and they're coming at me one after another. I keep pulling myself into the bar area. He's standing in the only area you can exit. I can feel glass breaking behind me. I can remember being terrified. I couldn't move. I couldn't go anywhere. He ran out of things to throw. I ran to the exit and we got into the struggle by the bar area. So in these pictures, it does depict like those cans on the floor. So it makes sense that he threw cans at her. And there is some shattered glass in various areas of the house. And a few drops of blood, like in the bar area, you can see a few drops of blood, I think. So, so that seems to, it's kind of dicey, like what that means, because it doesn't seem to match her description. Amber mentions the floor being very slippery because of the spilt liquor, but the pictures don't seem to show that. However, it was taken several hours after the fact, so the liquid could have moved around and evaporated, I don't know. And if Johnny had lost his fingertip in the bar area, you would expect to see a lot more blood rather than just a few drops like that. So it kind of doesn't make sense. On the tape, they mentioned that the people that came there, they said that the scene was very bloody and that both Johnny and Amber were covered in blood. And they mentioned having someone come by to clean the house before anyone saw it. So I'm not sure what that means. It kind of doesn't match either version of events. It doesn't match what Johnny said and it doesn't match what Amber said. But so I'm not. I wonder what the jury thought about that. And then she goes on to say, I remember my feet slipping on the tile as he was slamming me from the wall in the countertop. He had my nightgown and ripped it off my chest. He's teasing me. He has my breast in his hand. My nightgown came completely off. It was ripped off of me. I was naked. Later on, she mentions that she found her torn up nightgown with tied up with pieces of meat in it. I don't think that they show pictures of that either. So I wonder if that was something that the jury were confused about. Like maybe they thought that she fabricated that detail and that wasn't adding up to them. But it's a weird detail to make up. Like I think this is very strange for her to make something like that up. Then she says, he's flinging me around, he's screaming at me, that he fucking hates me, I ruined his life over and over. He starts punching the wall next to my head, holding me by the neck. His energy shifted to the phone on the wall. He went from punching the wall, he picked up the phone, and he's like screaming at the top of his lungs, saying that he hates her, starts bashing the phone against the wall. Every time he pulled his hand back, it was breaking into pieces. He's smashing it into smithereens. And Johnny Depp had contradicting testimonies about the phone thing, because like the existence of the phone altogether, like of this wall-mounted phone, because in the US trial he said that he didn't remember one at all, but in the UK he had testified under oath that he remembered ripping a wall-mounted phone off of the wall. So again, I'm just curious what the jury thought about that. But yeah, that's it's kind of sketchy on both sides. Like it's not adding up for both of them completely, but I think more details seem to match up with Amber's side of things. Then she says, my head was bashing against the back of the bar and I couldn't breathe. I remember trying to get up to tell him that he was really hurting me and that she couldn't breathe. And this was the moment where she said that she feared for her life. I think she said like she dissociated or passed out or something. But the next thing she knew, she felt this movement, like she was on the countertop. Her back was on the countertop and she was looking up into the light. And then she says that I just remember being really still, not wanting to move, and seeing all the broken glass, the bottles around the room. She said that it looked like he was punching her. She could feel this pressure on her pubic bone. She could feel his arm moving, and she's not exactly sure exactly what was going on. She didn't want to move because she says that she wasn't sure if the bottle that he had inside her was broken or not. So even though the pictures show that he threw cans, like that part of the story made sense, it doesn't seem like there's enough glass on the floor to match with what she's saying. We didn't really see too many. I don't think we saw any broken bottles. So that's kind of a dicey detail that's not really fitting with her story. When I listened to the tapes, they did mention that there was blood everywhere. We just don't know what they mean by that. The spilt liquor was there, but we didn't really see it in the pictures. So it's quite confusing how that happened. So Jerry Judge mentioned that Amber said that she threw the first bottle. Amber says the same thing, that she smashed the first bottle between them. So that seems to be something that coincides with what she said on the tapes, the secret tape. So I'm just not sure how many broken bottles we're expected to see and what happened to them. Also, on that tape, they mentioned that they wanted to clean that place up before anyone saw it. So I don't know what they mean by that. If it was really bloody and they wanted to cover something up, it's very unclear. We do see some broken glass, and it's more dispersed around the room, which I think would match more with what Amber's saying, more than what Johnny's saying. Because if Amber was throwing it just directly to him, I don't know if there was maybe there was more glass than that. It seems like there were more cans being thrown, and he didn't describe throwing cans around, so I'm not sure what to make of that. Also, when I think about like Johnny Depp, if he was awake the entire time, like Amber's saying, like he never went to sleep. I think it could make sense that maybe he could have cleaned up a bit himself and threw some of the bottles in the bin. That could have been something that he did. Like if he was doing cocaine and Adderall, sometimes people like to clean when they do that. Like they get kind of productive. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Like it's something to do, I guess. Like if he did actually take out meat and cut up her nightgown and fold that and do all those kinds of things, I don't think it's so unbelievable that he would like clean up the area a little bit. It's not that preposterous to think that he would do that. Also, if the nightgown detail, I think that would give credibility to Amber's story of him, of this sexual assault thing. If he did in fact do that, it would make sense. However, we didn't really see pictures of it. I just find it strange that she would make up that detail, and maybe that's what the jury was thinking, like that she made up that detail. But yeah, I don't think it's that strange to think that Johnny could have cleaned that area up if he was awake that entire time, and just wipe away some of the things, like his fingertip. The fingertip was found covered in paper towels. So if he got the paper towels out, it's not that hard to believe that he would wipe things down and maybe clean up the area. I don't think that's so unbelievable. So, but it does seem kind of sketchy. Like it doesn't fit either of the stories. Like the pictures that we're seeing, it doesn't seem to fit what Johnny's saying, and it doesn't seem to fit what Amber's saying. And then Amber goes on to say with the bottle assault, she's saying that she couldn't feel what it was. She didn't feel pain. She didn't feel anything. And then she says, I don't know how that ended. I don't know how I got off the countertop. I just remember being in the bathroom. I remember retching. I lost control of my bladder. I remember just retching. There was blood on the floor. So yeah, that's not an unbelievable thing. Like I can only speak from my experience of stuff that's similar to that, like dissociating in that similar way, being in one area and then like in a split second I'm in a different area. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a normal thing that people can experience if they've gone through a traumatic experience like that. And also she says that blood came out of her, and I can believe that maybe she put together the story in a way where because she sees broken bottles and she finds blood that came out of it. Maybe she thinks that that he put a broken bottle inside of her to cause, and that was what led to the blood. However, because she's saying that she didn't feel any pain, that could be a response to shock. Again, like speaking from my experience, I was wondering if maybe she had a panic attack and she experienced spotting, which is like if she experienced high level of stress, like a little bit of blood could come out of her just based on the stress. It's not directly related to the bottle. So those are my ideas on it. But if she made the whole thing up, I don't see why she would choose to tell a story that wasn't going to make sense to a lot of people. Because so that's why I think it's more credible that she would that this is just the truth and she has no other choice but to tell this story. Because if she made it up, she could make up something that would make a lot more sense to someone who doesn't know what that is. She says that she managed to get away. She took some sleeping pills and barricaded herself. And then when she woke up the next day, she found that he was blasting Marilyn Manson music out of the speakers of the house. And then she realized that he hadn't slept, and she saw all this brown writing when she woke up on the pillows and the lampshades, and it was like writing her messages like good luck and be careful at top, and he was writing on the walls and the mirrors with his blood and paint. So that's something that she woke up to. So that seems to be a fact that was true, and there is evidence that was true. So and she said that he had his hand wrapped in these rags, and he took them down and said and showed it to her and said, "Look what you made me do," or something to that effect. It was covered in paint. So, and then she just put it together that he was using his finger as a paintbrush. And she was like, why is he doing that when there's so many paintbrushes? And then that's why she was, and then she goes on to say that that on the tapes, like, this is something that kind of matches the stuff that's on the tapes, because you can hear Johnny Depp screaming at Amber that she made him sick of himself. And then Amber starts apologizing to him. So it doesn't seem like she's apologizing for severing his finger. It seems like she's apologizing for this vague thing where she made him feel sick of himself. Like he's making her feel guilty for stuff that she didn't do, perhaps. Because this was hours and hours and hours after his finger was severed. So it doesn't seem like a fresh thing. So it doesn't seem like she's taken responsibility for that. She's never taken responsibility for severing his finger in the tapes or in the testimonies or anything like that. So, and that tape wasn't allowed in. But she also said that he had been hiding cocaine from her. And I also, because she found these empty bags, and I've been wondering, like, maybe that was the reason he kept going to the bathroom. Something else that they found was that he had that there was a mug in the TV. And Amber explains that she made him a cup of coffee, maybe to sober him up or something, and then he just threw the mug into the TV, and the TV was very expensive. I think they said it was like $15,000. But yeah, there was a lot of property damage that happened. It was like around 75,000, maybe $100,000 worth of property damage. So yeah, that it all seems to be checking out. Like those are facts that seem to make sense. There was also a giant penis written on a painting, and a table was overturned and the bar went. So Johnny Depp says that he doesn't remember drawing the penis on the painting. So, but he probably did do it and he doesn't remember. So it's unlikely that Amber was the one to do it. So it all seems to make sense, that those things. And if he can't remember that he drew the giant penis on the painting, it makes you wonder, what else does he not remember? So again, it's just lending more credibility to Amber. It's not necessarily saying that everything she's saying is true. It's just saying that out of the two of them, she seems to be more credible. So yeah. So that was the whole Australia thing, and it seems like Amber was making more sense in her storyline. Johnny was kind of in a blacked out state for most of it, so it doesn't seem like he's a very reliable narrator. So I just wanted to know, like, what did the jury think when they had to go through this, and what were their ideas of what happened during that whole trip? And as a result of this whole thing, I'm just wondering, like, was Johnny Depp actually, was he defamed by these heinous allegations that Amber made against him? Because I'm not sure if he was. So, like, that's the key question, because he was awarded over $10 million worth of damages, and she didn't defame him if she told the truth. So, and I don't see a lot of evidence to decide that she's not telling the truth about what she said. So, yeah, the key question here is, was Johnny Depp really defamed?
Don't. You fucking go suck my fucking dick like everyone else who fucking sucks yours. Go fucking suck my dick, you fucking cowardless, ballless piece of shit.
I mean, was he really? Did these heinous allegations really affect him and ruin his life?
This morning, I don't think so.
Throughout this whole trial, I just kept seeing Johnny trying to displace the blame on Amber, trying to accuse her for things that she didn't do. And this is the one time, this Australia thing, where it's clear-cut evidence. He couldn't say that she did it, because the blood came directly out of his fingertip. Like, he's the one. Like, he can't say that it was someone else. Like, this is like catching someone red-handed. And the messages were about his paranoid, irrational, jealous suspicions that she was having all these affairs, and she was like these imaginary affairs with people who denied that they were having affairs with her. And he was extremely angry with her at the time. On top of that, when she was his girlfriend, he joked about murdering her and raping her dead corpse to be sure that she was dead. So why would it be so unbelievable that he would do that? Especially given, like, that all the factual details leading up to it on Amber's side. Like, everything she was saying, it tends to be correct, except for the nightgown meat thing. Maybe that wasn't something that was proven to us, but it's hard to be sure exactly, like, what people would think of that based on everything I've been seeing. The only thing is that people can't verify is, like, she said that she had like this slight bruise on her jaw and cut up feet, and she didn't take a picture of the cut up feet and the slight bruise on her jaw. We do see pictures of cuts on her arms, and we're not sure where that came from. And the other thing is that we didn't see a picture of her bloody vagina. But yeah, those are the only missing puzzle pieces, I guess. And I'm not sure if she would be believed, even if she took a picture of all those things. I'm not sure if that would lead people to believe that Johnny Depp sexually assaulted her with a bottle. I don't think that would be enough evidence for people. I'm not convinced that that would be enough evidence for people. Amber did not have to be perfect. Even if Amber was the most manipulative, schemy bitch ever, if she was a narcissist, has borderline personality or histrionic, even if she was a psychopath, that would not make her immune to being overpowered and sexually violated by a proven, drunken, cocaine-fueled menace, who, by the way, he actually said it, that he was out of his damn mind, because of course he was. Like, he was writing these deranged notes with his own blood and his pee. So even if she was a terrible person, it would not change the hard evidence of what he did. doesn't matter how good she is at playing mind games, doesn't matter how smart she is, and that she can psychologically overpower him too sometimes. Like, and it's not even all the time. Like she's not even that much smarter than him. Like maybe she's like a little bit smarter than him, but they seem to be pretty well matched when it comes to that. Like she's not that much smarter than him. She's just a little bit. Just calm down. Like she's not overpowering him that much. So you don't need to be that offended by that. And it's not going to make her invincible if she is in a physical fight with this man, and it was described as a physical fight by him. And it's not her beating him up. He said it was a physical fight, and with a man who is almost twice as heavy as she is, stronger than her. Like, she's gonna lose. If she's up against a man who is bigger than her and stronger than her, she's gonna lose. So she just wanted him to tell them that it was a fair fight. And like, do you honestly believe that that was a fair fight, given like the size and strength difference? And given the facts of this Australia trip, I just don't understand how a qualified psychiatrist would have the audacity to say that she is being overdramatic and that it's all in her head and it wasn't that bad. Like, this man was like writing her deranged notes in his own blood. Of course it was that bad. Of course, like, she was in fear for her life. Like, I just don't like trying to discuss this point. Like, it's just very obvious. Like, no, she's not safe being around someone like that who is in doing all these drugs at the same time. It's not a safe environment for anybody. Like, he could kill her on accident and not even know it. And like, when I look at the signs for histrionic, it just doesn't seem to match this idea of Amber. Like, if you say that it's an elaborate hoax, like, she can't be like making rash decisions if it's an elaborate hoax. It's not. It has to be that she's calculated and stuff like that. And I think when I look at the signs of it, it seems to fit Johnny Depp's behavior more than her. Like, the excessive sensitivity to criticism or disapproval, like, that's what their fights are about. Like, her saying mean things to him is what it's all about. Like, on those tapes, they mention Amber is saying to Jerry Judge, like, why did you tell him that I said that he was a fat old man behind his back that one time? And it seems like that was what the fight was about. It was that she said something like that to him, and maybe that made him so irrational and think that she was having affairs with all these other guys. Like, I mean, that's possible, but it's awful that if that's the reason why they had this fight, is because those little criticisms got to him that badly, and he had this overly dramatic reaction to it. But yeah, in general, like, this whole thing of saying that if she has borderline or histrionic, like, that means that this idea that if you have those disorders, it means that you can't be essayed. Like, what is it? I don't understand what people are saying when they make that point. Like, if it's histrionic and she over exaggerates details, it's like, isn't that a sickness and she can't help it? Like, she can't help telling the story by over exaggerating. But it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It doesn't mean that those things didn't happen. And when I listen to this story, it really doesn't sound like she over exaggerated anything. It seems like she said exactly what it was. And like, those people who have these disorders, and they might not tell the story in the exact way, it doesn't mean that they're going to be immune to being sexually violated. Like, this is a ridiculous point to stick on. And it's getting annoying, like, the way that people are sticking onto Amber's behavior as a victim, and like, well, her story doesn't add up, and no one's paying attention to Johnny Depp's story and how his story really, really doesn't add up. And like, you need to like quit judging the victim. Like, under these circumstances where someone has done this many drugs, and you see that at the end of it there was that much property destruction, and you can tell that he's angry with her, that he wrote these notes in his own blood, and that he was out of his mind. Like, under those circumstances, anything could have happened. She's not immune to it just because whatever psychological thing she has, it's not going to make her immune to anything bad happening to her. Ultimately, I'm kind of confused about Johnny Depp's lawyers. Like, I don't know if they're genuinely clueless or they know that they were defending the wrong thing and they did it anyway. It's really hard to tell. Like, Camille seemed to not know how cocaine works, so they might just, like, not understand these things. And I think they just relied on people not knowing very much about drugs and then having them over exaggerate what Amber's words were to make it seem like it was over the top, and they kept pointing out that she didn't have a medical record for her injuries and presented this idea that her injuries should have been more severe. But most domestic violence survivors won't have injuries that require medical attention, and they won't necessarily be that visible most of the time. So I think her injuries do match her description that she gave. Like, if she made the whole thing up, I think Amber is smart enough to tell a story that makes sense. Even if she is a liar, like, she would tell a story that made sense. And that's what I'm seeing. It is a story that makes sense. And Ron pointed out in the closing arguments, he kind of said to the lawyers that what they were saying was kind of gross, and it was all just like victim blaming nonsense, saying like, why didn't she come forward sooner? Why did she not report him? Why did she not leave? And all that stuff. And it's like, seriously, that's all you have to say for yourselves? And it's because, and it's very clear like why she didn't come forward sooner. Like, after seeing this reaction, like, it's because she knew that everyone's gonna be an asshole about this stuff. And that's what she said in the op-ed, like, that it wasn't likely for her to get justice in this way because she saw how institutions protect men in power against all odds. Like, this is a strange situation that he got protected. Like, with all this evidence against him, he somehow got protected. And we constantly see this, that they always, like, let men, powerful men, get away with sexual assault, domestic abuse because of a lack of hard evidence. And part of what her op-ed was talking about is the focus on just the most extreme cases and the most visible versions of sexual assault and abuse, and she wanted that to change. And this was a case where someone gave like one of the most extensive evidence of a domestic violence case ever. Like, she had so much proof of it, and now people have switched sides and saying, like, because she has so much evidence, that's proof that it must be an elaborate hoax. And it's not unexpected that that's what people would say. And his lawyers did this interview saying that the jury may have preferred Johnny because he sort of owned up to his flaws, which he so did not own up to his flaws. But yeah, they're just saying that because he said that he has this drug use thing, he toned it down a lot. He toned down his drug use a lot. And he also admitted to the verbal abuse that he does, which is like, yeah, that's fine, but I don't expect Johnny Depp to confess to serious crimes, so that doesn't mean much to me. And they said that Amber wasn't doing that, and and she should have owned up to her flaws more. And I have no idea what they're talking about when they say stuff like that. They know damn well how ridiculous it would be for her to apologize and blame herself and take the same amount of responsibility and say that she was equally at fault if he did that stuff to her. Like, she's not equally at fault if he did that stuff to her, is she? And under the influence of drugs and alcohol as well, like, that's a big part of it, is that it's under these substances that's causing him to act that way. And you just know that she has no power over him, no ability to control that situation. So it's just victim blaming nonsense again. And it's just so clear that nothing was ever going to be good enough. Like, obviously nothing was ever going to be good enough.